What if I told you that one of the year's best-reviewed games might also be its biggest commercial disaster? This isn't a story about a bad game. It's about a good game that almost nobody played, despite massive backing. We're talking about an Xbox Series X console exclusive that landed earlier this year, and as 2025 rolls on, it looks like the biggest flop. But what does flop even mean in the gaming world? We often confuse a flop with simply a terrible game, but they are not the same thing. A game becomes a true flop when it builds significant anticipation. Perhaps it looks great, or a high-profile studio creates it. Then, when it finally releases, it just fails to connect. Think of it like this. If everyone expects a game to be awful, and it is, that's not a flop. It's just a terrible game. And if a game shows major red flags before launch, you can hardly call it a flop when it inevitably struggles. No, a real flop carries the weight of shattered expectations. And we judge these by three crucial metrics: its critical reception, how consumers embrace it, and its commercial performance. So, let's talk about South of Midnight. This game genuinely had people talking. It's an Xbox game, and with that comes a certain level of built-in excitement and marketing muscle. It launched on April 8, 2025, landing straight onto Xbox Game Pass, a platform where you'd expect a first-party title to immediately rocket to the top of the charts. Yet, South of Midnight didn't. It debuted at a modest 7th most played game. It even trailed behind titles like Asphalt Legends and Commandos Origins, games that frankly do not present massive competition. If you thought Game Pass adoption simply swallowed its commercial performance, you were mistaken. It just wasn't captivating players. On Steam, the picture grew even bleaker. South of Midnight peaked with a mere 1,438 concurrent players. To truly grasp how abysmal that number is, consider this. Mind's Eye, a game many point to as another significant disappointment this year, nearly doubled that figure with 3,302 players. And if you recall Concord, often cited as one of the biggest flops in recent memory, its peak player count was 697. South of Midnight only managed about 700 more players than a game universally recognized as a catastrophic failure. Perhaps the most startling comparison is Redfall, another Xbox title notorious for its disastrous launch that ultimately led to a studio closure. Even that game, a titan of disappointment, managed a peak of 6,124 players. Redfall's numbers were terrible, yes, but they still eclipsed South of Midnight's performance by more than 4 times. Now, let's look at its critical reception. South of Midnight boasts a Metacritic score of 77. On its own, a 77 is a fine score, maybe even good. But for an Xbox Game Studios release, backed by immense resources and a major marketing push, a 77 is not a win. It feels unremarkable. Some developers would celebrate a 77, but certainly not a studio like this one. You could even argue a few perfect scores inflated that number, standing in stark contrast to the majority of reviews. So, is South of Midnight a bad game? Not at all. It's a solid release, arguably Compulsion Games' best work to date. But its quality almost became irrelevant when you consider its actual engagement across Game Pass and Steam. South of Midnight flopped not because it was bad, but because nobody played it. Nobody cared about it. Despite all that marketing, despite all those Xbox resources, it wasn't a disastrous game. It was something arguably worse. It was quickly forgotten. What does it say about the modern gaming landscape when a genuinely solid game can vanish without a trace, simply because it fails to capture attention? We're left to ponder if a game's quality now matters less than its ability to go viral, or simply to stay relevant. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Is being ignored worse than being hated? Let us know, and make sure you subscribe for more insights into the ever-evolving world of tech and gaming.